I became the male protagonist's vicious stepmother. My cheap stepson is going to take the college entrance examination. I tore up his admission ticket and instigated his father to beat him so that he couldn't get out of bed. As a result, the rebellious stepson grew up to be a big villain. After starting from scratch, he locked me in a small dark room and tortured me day and night. Thinking of my ending, my legs softened and I knelt directly in front of him. Facing the gloomy and violent eyes of my stepson, I immediately passed the blame. Your father asked me to do it. I didn't listen, so he beat me. Later, my stepson was admitted to college and I moved away. He kicked the door open with a gloomy look. Divorce him, I will support you. When I woke up, a tall black figure stood in front of the bed. The moonlight came in from the window, illuminating the sharp and cold kitchen knife in his hand. Oh my God! I was so scared that I rolled and crawled off the bed, and with a pop, the light turned on. The boy in front of me was dressed in black clothes and black pants. On his forehead, which was covered by his fine hair, there were dark blue and purple wounds on the lips, which looked like they were just left. On his exposed arms, new wounds overlapped with old scars, which was horrible to look at. At this moment, his dark and gloomy eyes stared at me, and there was a strong murderous intent in his eyes. I shuddered and remembered. I had entered a cruel novel and became the vicious stepmother of the male protagonist, Jang Sun. In the book, the boy in front of me would start from scratch and become a new noble in North City. I, the vicious cannon fodder female supporting role, would be found by him and locked in a small dark room. He would use all means to torture me to death day and night. My legs were shaking like sieves, and I knelt down with a dong. A trace of suspicion flashed across the boy's sinister eyes, and he stared at me thoughtfully. I knelt obediently and pinched my thigh hard, and tears fell down in pain. Ah son, you are a good kid. Actually, I like you very much. Stop pretending to be a good guy. Jang Sun's face was emotionless, his eyes were cold and disgusted. Really? I tried to make myself cry sincerely. I am not much older than you, and I have no say in this family. As I said that, I grabbed his hand and tried to take down the kitchen knife. Damn, why can't I take it down? I cried even louder. Your father told me to do it. I didn't listen, so he beat me. Really, if you don't believe me, just look. I lifted up my shirt and exposed the scars on my body that had already scabbed. Jang Sun was stunned. Taking this opportunity, I snatched the kitchen knife from his hand, threw it under the bed, and grabbed his hand again. Let mom see, where is the injury? Fuck. The boy's face suddenly became gloomy and terrifying, and he pushed me away with a fierce look in his eyes. If you dare to call yourself my mother again, I will kill you. After saying that, he slammed the door and went out. I breathed a sigh of relief. I took out the kitchen knife from under the bed and hid it in the closet. I felt a little uneasy, so I went into the kitchen and locked up all the dangerous items. I married here 3 months ago. This marriage was arranged by my aunt. My aunt said that the other party was 42 and I would be 24 after the Chinese New Year, so we were about the same age. She said that the other party was divorced and had a child, so there was no doubt about his fertility. She also said that the other party was emotionally stable and never fought with outsiders. If I didn't marry her, she wouldn't give money to my grandmother for her medical treatment. If I didn't marry her, I would be the culprit affecting the harmony of the whole family. So, I got married. After I got married, I found that the uncle's son, who was in the 3rd year of high school, was not much older than me. Moreover, the uncle had been drinking for many years, and he was not good at that. He was not interested in women, and he was looking for a wife purely to find a free nanny. The uncle also loved gambling. There was not a penny in the family. He was poor, stingy, and shrewd. He was afraid that I would take his house, so he asked my hukou from my aunt and pledged my ID card, but he refused to get the marriage certificate with me. After all, I am a young girl, and I am often criticized by neighbors. Even worse, they said that I served the old and then the young. So, I vented my anger on Jang Sun. But this man is stubborn and refuses to give in. Relying on his father's dislike for him, I often say bad things about him behind his back. Jang Sun was supposed to take the college entrance examination today. And I arrogantly tore up his admission ticket last night and instigated his father to beat him up while he had a fever and no strength, so that he couldn't get out of bed. He missed the most important thing in his life. The original owner was asking for death. I entered Jang Sun's room. His room was a mess after the fight last night. The books were torn to pieces, and the sheets were torn into pieces. I cleaned up my room, went to the bookstore, and used the little money I had left to buy review materials for the senior year. I also took out half a chicken from the kitchen refrigerator and stewed it, and fried a few light snacks. When the meal was ready, I was about to call when Jang Sun came back. He was still injured, but he was in good spirits. "Wash your hands and eat." Jang Sun frowned when he saw the full table of dishes. "Poisoned?" I didn't care about his misunderstanding, served myself a bowl, and took a sip. "Well, poison me first, then poison you. You're sick." Jang Sun threw down a sentence indifferently, strode into his room, and slammed the door shut. After a while, the door opened again, and Jang Sun grabbed the review materials in his hand and threw them out without mercy. His dark eyes stared at me, warning fiercely. "From now on, don't enter my room." The boy didn't even eat the meal and went out again. Until the evening, he didn't come back. Today, the college entrance examination is over. I am a little worried that he might get into trouble, so I went out to look for him. I ran around the school and finally found him at a barbecue stall. A group of young men and women sat together, with drinks and beer piled up in a mess. Jang Sun was sitting among them. The others were full of youthful vitality, but he was decadent, negative and gloomy, and didn't fit in with the surrounding environment. I felt a little uncomfortable. "Accent." As soon as I spoke, everyone looked over. A few boys whistled ambiguously and joked, "Yo yo yo, Jiang brother, you are here to confess again." "Shut up." Jiang Sun's legs were too long, and he was lazily propped up, with coldness and fatigue at the end of his eyes. "What are you doing here? Get out." "It's not Axon, how can you do this to your sister?" "Wait, you look familiar, damn, are you Axon's vicious stepmother?" The whole audience was silent. "Ah Sun said you are an old witch, how come you are so young?" I smiled, "You are well maintained, 42 but look like 24, Jiang Sun, come here, I have something to tell you." I retreated to the alley next to me and waited. After a while, Jiang Sun followed lazily in, his eyes were still cold, like the cold knife that night. I felt a chill on my back and shrank my neck. "You know, your father doesn't have money to send you to college, and he doesn't really want you to go. This is the truth." Every time Jiang Sun's father gets drunk, what he says the most is that studying is useless. He also questioned Jiang Sun, if he read so many books and went to college, he would run away like his mother and never come back. Every time this happened, the father and son always quarreled. If it wasn't me who quarreled that night, it would be your father. You know how hard your father beats people. I was afraid. I apologize to you. Speaking of this, I tried my best to squeeze out 2 tears. An explanation is better than no explanation. So what? Jiang Sun's lips curled up with a cold arc of sarcasm. "It's none of my business." Of course it's none of my business, we still have a chance, we will pass the exam again next year, you can't give up on yourself. Give up on yourself. Jiang Sun sneered, and suddenly, he leaned closer, and I saw a strawberry bear band-aid on the corner of his mouth, probably given by a girl. "Mom, you found the wrong person, no matter how well you coax me, the old man will not listen to me and give you the house." He was very close, looking both bad and bad. After saying that, he seemed to feel bored and turned to leave. I quickly grabbed him. The boy looked thin, with nothing under his t-shirt, but I didn't expect him to be so well endowed. I hurriedly let go. "You should study at your age, I know your father won't give you money, as long as you repeat the year, I will support you." Jiang Sun didn't seem to expect me to do this, and his expression froze for a moment, but soon, he returned to his carefree and miserable state. Okay, give me 200 yuan first. Mobile phone. Jang Sun flipped through the payment page and looked at me leisurely. I hesitated for 3 seconds and swiped 500 yuan painfully. No need to save, no waste, play well with your classmates, no fighting. Jang Sun was sure that I would not give it. After seeing the payment message, a bad look froze on his face. Jang Sun did not listen to me. He disappeared for 3 days before returning home. The boy who always went to his room when he got home was standing in the living room at this time, as if he had seen a ghost. I brought out the braised pork, stir-fried lotus root slices, and tomato and egg soup, feeling a little proud. How is it? Is it okay? We live in an old community. The community is old, but the cost-effectiveness is high. It is also a school district house. The decoration of the house is a bit outdated, but the materials used at the time were all good. It's just that I don't take care of it. It's messy and dirty. I cleaned it up, threw away what should be thrown away, swept what should be swept, and bought a bunch of daisies from 9.9 downstairs and put it by the window, which made it much more comfortable. Jang Sun didn't say anything. I put the dishes and rice into the lunchbox and stuffed it into his hand. If you don't want to eat it, send it to Grandma Wang next door. Are you attracted to his son? Does my dad know? You really know how to talk. The son next door went abroad and didn't come back for several years. She came in when I was cooking meat and asked if she could exchange fruit with me so that I could cook for her. Jang Sun didn't say anything, took off his coat and threw it on the sofa, and turned to go out with the lunchbox. When he left, I found something fell out of his pocket. I picked it up and looked at it, and was dumbfounded. 001. He's really good at choosing. Super thin. No wonder he didn't come back for 3 days. It turns out that he fell in love early. Wait. This is not in the book. Could it be that because of my arrival, some things have changed? I felt a little complicated. What if someone died? It would affect the future of both parties, and I would have to become a grandmother at a young age. Jang Sun came back, picked up his coat and went into the room. I didn't see it just now, but I can see it clearly now. There was a clear red mark on his neck. My heart sank, and I grabbed him. Are you in love too early? Let go. Jang Sun, it's normal for you to have impulses at your age, but you still have to repeat the year, and you should focus on studying. That kind of thing is not urgent. What kind of thing? Jang Sun smiled viciously. Little mother, teach me. Damn it. He called me so sarcastically, and I always felt that he was holding back something good. I slapped the box on his face. It fell out of your pocket. You'd better not kill anyone. Jang Sun looked unnatural for a moment, took the box from my hand, turned around and walked into the room. Don't worry, I won't ask you to help me take care of it even if it's done. What a joke. I followed him. With a bang, the door closed. Brat. If it wasn't for eliminating your resentment towards me, I wouldn't care about you. I advised earnestly. Although you are an adult, you are still a student. You still have to repeat the year. You should focus on studying. It's not too late to fall in love after you get into college. What do you think? If you really like that girl, you can be consistent, but you must not mess around with men and women. Also, come back every day to eat in the future. Don't work that job, go buy some review materials, don't play around. Here's 1,000. Shut up. The door opened. Jang Sun lowered his eyes were still cold, but his tone was much softer. Are you annoying? You're not my mother. I put the money on the table and went to work. When I got home from get off work, I was still at the bottom of the building when I heard the noise from the 3rd floor. I ran up, the door was open, the room was a mess, with broken bowls and cups, broken chairs, and bubbling wine stains. The house that should have been bright and tidy was in a mess. Little bastard, you are my son, so what if I took 1,000 yuan from you? Jang Sun's dark eyes were fierce and cold. Come back. Jang Sun's father seemed to be frightened by the coldness of the boy, but the next second, he was angry and cursed. You are so strong that you want to learn from your mother and run away? I tell you, you are my son, and you have my blood in your body. You are destined to rot here in this life. After saying that, he picked up a wine bottle and smashed it on Jang Sun's head. This is outrageous. If I don't beat you to death today, I won't be named Jang. Something flashed through my mind, so fast that I couldn't catch it. My mind was full of this smash, and I would definitely give him a concussion. Without thinking, I rushed forward. Stop hitting him. I wanted to pull Jang Sun away, but he blocked me instead. Bang! The wine bottle broke into pieces, and the wine mixed with blood flowed down Jang Sun's face. His already pale face was now bloodless. Jiang Wenli, he is your son, do you want to beat him to death? After yelling, the courage that rose up in that moment disappeared completely. I was panicked and scared, and dragged Jang Sun out regardless of anything. Go to the hospital. No wonder. Jiang Wenli kicked the glass fragments and grabbed my hair. Bitch, you gave him the money, right? I asked you for money, and you said you didn't have it. I was in so much pain that tears welled up in my eyes. Jiang Sun's face changed drastically, and he turned around and stood in the middle. Let her go. The next second, I heard a scream. I didn't see Jiang Sun's movements clearly, but I saw Jiang Wenli covering his wrist and stepping back in pain. In front of him, the young man was violent and sinister, with a pair of red eyes. Try to touch her again. After saying that, he grabbed me and walked out. The person behind me snorted. Bitch, no wonder others told me to be on guard against you, you fucking hooked up with my son. No, that's not right, your new wife says bad things about your son every day, how could she hook up with him? You should be worried, she wants your house. That's right, she told me in person that your son is a jerk and will go to jail sooner or later. She also said that sooner or later you will drink yourself to death or be beaten to death by debt collectors. But there are always contingencies. If they dare to hold hands today, they will dare to kiss tomorrow. Maybe she wants your house or your son. My eyes were as big as copper bells. Thank you so much. Sure enough, Jiang Wenli was furious after hearing this. Bitch, I'll beat you to death first. Jiang Sun didn't know when he entered the kitchen and picked up a kitchen knife. Beat her to death, you go to jail. Fierceness and disgust surged out without covering up. Jiang Wenli's eyes fell on the cold blade and he shuddered violently. I was just joking. Well, you're out of salt, right? I'll go get some. After that, he squeezed out of the crowd and disappeared. As for you. Jiang Sun glanced at the neighbors who were still enjoying the fun. If I hear you, whoever is gossiping outside will bear the consequences. The young man said this in a very oppressive and deterrent way. The faces of the group of people changed drastically. Go away, go away. Jiang Sun has killed people. We didn't say he would go to jail sooner or later. If you want to kill someone, you should kill his stepmother first. What a joke. I laughed awkwardly. Have you read cool novels? Anyway, your reputation is not very good. I exaggerated and said something outside. Everyone thought you were a bad student. But suddenly one day, you were admitted to college and you were not what they said. Wouldn't that be a slap in their faces? Think about it, isn't it cool? Jiang Sun looked at me expressionlessly. So, I should thank you? That's not necessary. You helped me today. Let's go. Aren't you hungry after all this time? I'll treat you to barbecue. I dragged Jang Sun out. The boy looked grumpy, but he didn't resist. After dinner, I used the excuse of taking a walk, because I was full. I walked to the door and forced him to choose review materials. I was afraid that he would throw it out like last time, so I quickly played the victim. Can't you just pity me? I only have that little salary, and what I throw away is hard-earned money. I want to please you, but I'm afraid of your father, and I want to have someone to rely on. Jiang Sun's expression moved slightly, but his tone was still cold. You don't have to spend money on me. I have it. It's done. I was overjoyed and took his arm. "My son, I knew you could understand." Jang Sun's face darkened instantly. "You fucking. Forget it, it won't happen again." "But," I added, "they said you killed someone." A cold look swept over me, and my face changed in an instant. "Son, I believe you." School started in a blink of an eye, and I went to the school to attend a parent-teacher meeting for Jang Sun. Jang Sun studied in high school for 3 years, and his father missed his 3-year parent-teacher meeting. The head teacher of the cram school happened to be his former head teacher. The parent-teacher meeting lasted for 1 hour, and he scolded me for 3 hours. "You just give birth to a child, but don't care about raising him? Teacher, I'm his stepmother." A stepmother is also a mother, so she has to be responsible for the child. Yes, his father is not responsible. I will take care of Jang Sun in the future. Jang Sun has a good foundation, persuade him well, don't waste it. I patted my chest and promised, almost swearing a poisonous oath, "Okay teacher, I will definitely urge him to get into Tsinghua and Peking University. Bring honor to the school and bring honor to you." When Jang Sun's first test results came out, my eyes went dark and I almost fainted. "What, Tsinghua and Peking University? It's better to get a sweet potato." "Don't be angry. Otherwise, the mother-son relationship that I have built up by picking him up from school every day will be completely ruined. There is a lot of room for improvement, and you handed in a blank English paper. Not bad, you are quite patriotic." Jang Sun's mouth twitched fiercely. However, mastering a foreign language can help us learn other cultures. If you don't know how to do it, I'll explain it to you. I went through the multiple choice questions again, marking the key words and grammar. Jang Sun looked at me with an increasingly strange look in his eyes. "Didn't you drop out of high school?" "I'm smart, I can learn it as soon as I learn it." Of course I wouldn't tell him that I majored in English before I came here. The boy turned the pen lazily and asked casually, "You're so good at English, have you ever thought about the future?" I thought about it, to gain your favor, save my life, and then get away with it. I thought so in my heart, but I didn't dare to say it out loud. Of course I raised you up and watched you get into college.